Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to take a moment and thank everybody for coming today, and thank the Corvette Clubs for putting together our procession. We really appreciate everybody coming and helping us make this happen. For those that don't know me, my name is Desiree, and I'm Mark's niece. My dad is his twin brother, Lynn. I know many of us have traveled to get here today, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy lives to come and be with us. My uncle was one of my best friends, and his loss is very hard for me and my family to accept. So please forgive us if we end up stumbling around a bit up here today. As I'm sure you will all find out by hearing all the different stories about Mark today, he was an amazing, all-around great person. Not a perfect person, of course, but one that many will agree was a fun-loving, easy-to-get-along-with person. I wish I had inherited his ability to tell a story, as that ability would sure come in handy right now. I think everyone here will remember a slightly different person, and I can't wait to hear each and every one of your stories throughout the afternoon. After I'm finished speaking, I'll be reading a short note from his mom, Betty, and then we'll pass the microphone off to my dad to say a few words. Once he's done, we'll welcome anyone who would like to take a second and say a few words or tell a story. Please do not be shy. I know you're not shy. When I look back at my uncle over my lifespan, there are many gaps in time, as he moved to California for many years when I was young. I do remember multiple trips home and some trips that he took to come visit the family in Florida where my dad was living, and up in Seattle during the Christmas time. They're great memories. My uncle loved to travel. He was a long-haul truck driver for many years, and I think it fit him perfectly. I remember many times sitting in the cab of the trucks as he explained to me what a CB radio was and how it worked, and that his name, or his handle name, was Freeway. He loved to drive at night. I have so many memories of the radio blasting, traveling down the freeway with him and my dad side by side. It was great. My uncle returned back to Oregon in April of 2012 and was my rock. He made sure my grandma got to come to my house every Friday to see my twin girls and my older daughter Alexis. He just was amazing. There was never a day that he woke up and was a grumpy day and he was unwilling to go and do whatever needed to be done. I have a whole long speech here. I'm not going to finish this. So,
take a breath. Just count to 3.
If only you could read, my love, I'd let you come read it for me. I think I want everybody to know how grateful I am that you came. He would be so proud to see this turnout and be so happy to see all the cars rolling up this morning, this afternoon. I'm going to read a poem that we've picked out as a family, and then I'm going to read a speech from my grandma on her behalf today for him, and then I'm going to let my dad sort of take over. The poem is titled, "Miss Me, But Let Me Go." When I come to the end of the road and the sun has set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not too long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that we once shared. Miss me, but let me go. For this is a journey that we all must take, and each must go alone. It's all part of the Master's plan, a step on the road to home. When you are lonely and sick of heart, go to the friends we know and bury your sorrows and good deeds. Miss me, but let me go. On behalf of his mom, she says, "I loved Mark very much, and I miss him terribly. I know we will be together again once I am gone. My love to all the family left behind. Mark enjoyed everything he did. He had a lot going for him. He had many loves in his life, from family and friends to driving trucks and working heavy construction equipment to his animals, both domesticated and wild. He loved his squirrels, who ate peanuts right out of his hand on the back porch. Sometimes they would climb on his lap and take them directly out of his pockets. He also loved his kitties, and they sure miss him. Mark was miserable and in pain for many years due to his knees, but that did not stop him from enjoying life, traveling with his Corvette clubs, and socializing with his friends and family. He was a great caretaker, and I miss him so much. I want to give special loves and thanks to Holly for bringing Mark and his car home. I know the return trip did not go as planned, but sincerely appreciate all that you did to make sure you brought my son home to me. I want to thank all the relatives and friends who have helped me during this time of sorrow. I want to thank my sister Mary, who has for years helped me, especially after my car wreck and my broken hip, and now since Mark's passing. She is the daughter I never had. Mark's twin brother Lynn misses him terribly, remembering all their years together. And with that, Dad, I'm going to let you take over.
Actually, after that, Desiree, I can probably just say hello, very simple. He lived, he died, and we cried. And for now, I think I'm just going to go outside, smoke some pot, and be happy and smile about the old times and stuff. So, thank you, Mark. But thank you. Of course, I couldn't do that, because if I did that, I'd sure feel guilty the rest of my life, But Desiree, that was a fantastic analog and opening eulogy you gave for Mark. I really couldn't say much more about his life, and the writing from my mother tells it all. There's no doubt. Every one of us had a special life with Mark, and how we loved him differently and how he was, So, yes, I've thought about Mark a lot since his passing, and I'll tell you, it's almost kind of cruel, and the fact that when someone leaves this world, no matter how, it's such a shock, but usually, they bury people right away, and you're stunned, and you really don't grasp the meaning of his life within that 1 week. They bury people, and you're expected to, it's over with, but they move on. But in this situation, I thought it was very unique, and I am grateful for the fact that it took so long for us to get his going away party, because, Mark had a journey, and this turned out great to be able to have almost 1 month from the time we found out about the tragedy that he had with Holly. So it gave us plenty of time over the last, at least myself, and I know my family members feel the same. It gives you a unique time to grieve and reflect your life with his life and things that took place. And you recall that, and that memory will stay with you for the rest of your life, how you remembered him, And so, as that happened this month, I cried a lot, that's for darn damn sure. It's amazing how I haven't had one day that I actually haven't thought about him, either when I woke up or before I woke up, about things that we did, or when I went to bed. So that was always something to look forward to. I'll probably have that for a long time. First of all, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. As Ray said it all, we appreciate the Corvette Club helping out and all the effort it took, and all the people that are here from a long ways away and a short ways away, and people that are sitting in this room that my brother, as well as myself, because for some reason we're about the same age, we've known these people since kindergarten, in the first grade, and all the way through high school, all the way through Dunaway, in 4 years at Cleveland, or in my case, I think it was 6 or 5. I know it was there afterwards. I know for sure. Anyway, thank you for all coming, especially for coming a long ways away. I made Holly sleep on the couch last night next to me. I slept at my mom's house on the floor on about 7 blankets and a couple of sleep bags. It was really comfortable. Hello, Hollywood. Oh, I was just talking about you. You know that? By strange coincidence, here, have a drink. By strange coincidence, I was saying how appreciative I am for what sacrifice took place. And just so all of you will know, because some of you may not know the entire story, what took place. So, my brother being a member of the Corvette Club, and really enjoying the Corvette Club, because he looked forward to that. That was part of his life now, living back to Portland. And he talked to me about, in the past, about his road trips to where did right, you got it, Kentucky 4 years ago. And then there was so much looking forward to this trip. So they planned out this anyway, the last one was 4 years ago. So they planned out their 5,000-mile, 3-week road trip. So which is a lot of miles around the country. And they were going down to Bowling Green, Kentucky for the National Corvette headquarters and or wherever the museum, and they have a big displays for 4 days. Mark went down there because he was going to use the test track. And his good friend Dante from Wisconsin were going to take their Corvettes out and run the hell out of them. And see what they would do. They didn't care if it broke or not. So on that road trip, they had a great time. My brother had called me several times, and he was so happy. He was going, oh my gosh, I got to wreck my car. He was laughing because he got to knock out a wheelbarrow or do something, and he got to drive that course as fast as he wanted to, and he was just so happy. And he was bragging about how much better this Corvette run was than the one. What am I? Oh, back that one up. I love that one. Gosh darn it. All right. You have to wait for the next round. Okay. I got off track on that for sure. Okay, so anyway, when their fun down there in the Bowling Green area was over, Mark left to go up to Wisconsin, spend a few days at his friend's house, Dante, on the lakes up there, Eagle Lake and some other happy name lake, and use the boat. And he was telling me all the time about how much he enjoyed it up there. There's always great sunsets. There's always eagles flying around. So then they decided it's time to leave, head back to Oregon. And so they left. And on their journey, stopping over there in North Dakota, they got the hotel room and everything was okay, Mark got up early in the morning, he was up for about 2 minutes, took a leak, came out, fell down, on the floor and died. Just like that, He hardly had time to say good morning to Holly. Now that was tough, for sure, on anybody to be somewhere with your best friend where Holly did so many Corvette runs with them and shared the love of those Corvettes. They were spending hour after hour, day after day together in the car, going different places. So you can imagine how nutty that had to be. Several times they got lost around the country. I told them to use the GPS, and they did, and they went 500 miles the wrong way. When you get those two together, they're lost. They don't even know what state they're in. But he always made it home, all right? So, on his way home, he had this massive heart attack. So, Holly's devastated. It's the weekend. We're all going nutty what to do, so Mark was a donor, and so Mark gave whatever good organs he had left, us donations, and they did that very fast. The next day, got them all done. Well then, Holly's stuck at a hotel for 2 days by himself. All his family members, okay, third day, okay, 3 days. So he's stranded, we're talking to him all the time. You can imagine how devastated he is, doesn't have any family members. He comes up with this great idea. Why don't we take Mark right now and get him cremated? And I'll finish the tour, get him cremated. I'm going, cremated? That sounds like you're going to, okay, let's go through the drive-through, okay? It was so quick. It was the first drive-through. He got cremated. Holly got his daughter, little Holly I call her, loving little Holly. They got on the road and they made the trip back to Portland. He completed his journey. He had a plan to make so many miles and do this. I said there's only one little difference. Mark left at 270 pounds, happy, and came back at only 6 pounds. Okay? But he took that road trip and he loved it, and he was bragging not to me, but to my mother and his daughter and my daughter about how happy he was that week. Okay, hello. Hi, beautiful. You want to say what your name is?
Anna Marie.
Okay, Anna Marie, you have to step over there because no one can see you. All you see is tennis shoes. There she is. Anyway, thank you, Holly, for making that road trip. And little Holly. How come? Well, you don't want your picture up there too much, all right? Because that means we're going over here and I have to talk about your story. I have a hard time remembering all those years. Okay, so you're up there, so pay attention. Holly, pay attention. There's going to be a test later, all right? And, oh well. You know, I made some notes, but my problem is I can't figure out my notes. I still write like Anna Marie. Oh, there goes. And I surely know she spells better. And there's another one. We have competition over there. It's always that way. I'll just tell a couple little brief stories. First of all, probably. Anyway, thank you, Holly. Maybe, you know, me and Mark, we were twins. We did a lot of things together over the last 68 years. You know, when we were in high school, we got in a lot of trouble with, well, I'm the only one that really got in a lot of trouble. You know, I deserved, that's right, I went to jail for it. I confessed, hey, but there's always time there for your sins, you know, and I've already done that. So, back to school, I just want to bring one event that really refreshes my memory, that sticks in my head and always will be. Mark was in 1968, I think we were sophomores and or juniors. Mark became the youngest. Hey, can you guys be quiet over here? My voice is so hard, I can't hear myself. Okay, so quiet for a minute.
No.
I can't, no time to repeat. Mark became the youngest overhead crane operator in the United States in a steel mill. He got a job early in life through my dad, who did some type of work or some connection with the McVinville steel mill down there, producing steel out of ladles. Mark was only like 16 years old. Got this job at the big overhead crane that picks up all the metal and puts it in the big hot pots, pours it all, and, you know, big stuff that most people have to wait till they're 30 years old with a lot of experience. And it was a very well-paying job, but he got that job at 16 with no training. So right away, he bought this brand new Chevrolet. It was a showroom car. He bought off the Chevrolet showroom and, you know, showed it off. He enjoyed it because he made really great money. Well, it was one night, and we were all experimenting with a lot of pot, a lot of LSD back then. So don't deny it. I mean, I can point a lot of them out, okay, including myself, a lot. So we, there was, I think, 4. There's my brother and me, and I believe it was Mr. Tom Clevenger. That's for sure he's not. And here's what we're doing. Okay, go ahead. We took this LSD, and we had the best trip. We were all together in my brother's brand new car. It had the coolest sound system, and we're all stoned, we're thinking we're going the speed limit, and you look down and you're going like 13 miles an hour. We figured, well, my brother says, let's get off the street. We're going to go into this parking lot. And I don't remember, it's downtown or over by Lloyd Center. It was like a 4 or 5 layer parking lot. Well, we're all stoned on LSD. But we're listening to Pink Floyd. Oh, we're all tripping on Pink Floyd. We got lost in that parking lot. we were there for 2 hours. We'd go up a couple of flights and think, okay, this doesn't look right, or go all the way to the top, and then try to work down, and then we going, we can't find the exit. Then we go back up again. Oh, that was a very good night. During high school, we led different types of lives. Of course, Mark was always into the heavy equipment, and he knew how to drive dump trucks early in life because of my father. My dad had a rock crushing pit up in North Portland, and he was always involved with heavy equipment. And so was Mark. He really enjoyed that. I really didn't enjoy it. I followed a little bit, but Mark was really into it. And my dad spent the time to train him. So I thought that was all good, and that's for sure. And just a second. I need to read my notes. Okay. Well, basically, after high school, there was a little break. I had to go to jail for a couple of years. Forgot that part. So, when I got out, I got involved making those wood decoupage plaques. So I got involved in that because we all saw a guy down in Hayton, Ashbury, down by the Fisherman's Wharf, San Francisco, making those things. So I came back and rented a router, and blah, 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 made a bunch of them, and they were pretty cool, and before we knew it, there was a bunch of us involved. I had Howard Weiner and Ralph Owens and myself, and things were taking off really good. And that was about, I think, 1974. And the business was growing fine, and I had some problems with things were going on. I didn't like it, and so I walked away, and I was going to get involved with some concert business and some other stuff. And maybe it was 6 months later or 4 months later, they came to me, or my brother came to me and said, they need to borrow some money. This business has got all this going on, but all this chaos and no money. And my brother said, we need some help or something. What do you think? And I said to him, I tell you what, I'll get the money together. I got X amount of cash, and I'm going to go to our dad, and I'm going to give him a proposal, and he's going to loan me this amount of money, and then I'm going to buy into the business. Okay, great idea. We do all this. I get my contract with the guys, Howard and Ralph, and when the time came for the first payment, they were paying it off. They didn't have the money, of course. And they wanted to do something else. And I wasn't happy with that. So I gave them another date. And that date went by, of course, and I didn't get paid. So I came up with this idea with my brother. I said, you and me, well, let's become partners. I'll give you 50% of all the equity that we make in the business. I'm going to put all the money in right now. You're going to get paid an hourly wage. And all you got to do is be my partner and help me run the business. And so we came up with this plan that we're going to kick Ralph and Howard out. And so I go down there and I break into the warehouse, and take all the locks off and take the lock off the office door and change the lock in the vehicle. We had a delivery truck and all that other crap. That was like on a Sunday, so they were gone. When they came back Monday morning, what a surprise. They couldn't get into the building. And I had signs up, and I had contracts, and they knew they didn't have a case, so I got that problem resolved real quick. Well, Mark was my partner for quite a few years. The business grew really well. The reason our partnership dissolved real easy is because, well, we all smoked pot, but my brother liked to smoke it, like at lunch breaks, or when we have employee breaks. And I did not like that, because I said, I don't care if people smoke pot, I smoke pot, but can't do it at work, can't go out and get buzzed, at lunchtime with everybody, because you know what? We have some equipment that I had designed, and we were in high production. At the end of my career, I was making 1,000 pictures a day. But this machine, this one particular one, had rollers on it.
He's walking all over the place.
One was steel and one was rubber. And it might be described like an old wash machine crank where something goes through it, or a printing press. And it's electric. And I designed it, and my dad helped me go get the parts and build it. But it was dangerous. It had really not right protection on it and stuff. Anyway, my brother's outside there. These guys are smoking pot. They come in, and one of the procedures is you run the board through the machine, and there's this material that's over the top so it doesn't stick to the resin on the top roller. Well, the guy's stoned, and he doesn't let go of the board on the roller, and it catches his hand right here, and it pulls his thumb, his arm all the way up to about this high, and he's stuck in there. Luckily, he didn't pull, just take his whole arm on. Somebody else shut the power.
What do you want me to do?
Got him out of there.
I'm talking to people.
Mark took him to the hospital with whoever, and I was devastated. I was mad. The guy's thumb was off right here, stuck all crushed in the machine. I knew it wasn't going to go to the hospital, so I took it out. I was so damn pissed this happened because it didn't have to happen, so I nailed it up on the wall. I was an example to all the other employees, and my brother, when he got home, I said, damn pissed. I always told you, something could happen. We have equipment in here, and got a bunch of stoners, So we still are. That wasn't probably a right thing to say, but it was what happened. Mark and me really didn't argue too much about that episode, but we argued about other things. So I just simply made the proposal. I'll buy you out, Mark, and you do this, and I'll do this, okay? And we went our separate lives. Mark started one business making some terrariums, and then he took some of the money and he wanted to go trucking, which he did, Mark trucked with 3 different trucks over the roads, coast to coast. He did a Mayflower thing, and was a long hauler. And he also got involved with my racing, as my racing was always involved with my plastic business. And so Mark went on the road a lot with us. I had a big Kenworth. It was a 45-foot trailer behind it. It held the race car, and it held a tow vehicle, and sometimes we have a motorcycle and a jet ski up on the front. We would travel a lot. Hollywood on the road many years and years. So my brother was our driver sometimes back then. He was also a commercial driver. And we had some arguments, now and then.
Right.
So my brother decided that he wasn't going to race with me anymore right now. He was just going to spend full time down in California. Hey, excuse me, don't sit down or you're going to have time out, okay? You too, little brat. Give me a kiss. Oh, I forgot to say something. Have I told you lately that I love you? If not, I do. Now and forever. Amen. Oh, okay, let me move on with the story, Holly. Holly's getting impatient. Hey, listen, can I remind you, Holly, this only happens one time in a lifetime, all right? So I need to tell my story. Only one other story I thought was very funny. It's the one I'm going to remember all my life, too. Holly, would you like to listen to the story? What? No, you ever heard? Okay. You probably haven't heard about this one. Mark was coming home for Christmas. Stop for a second, Holly. Just listen. Stop being so stubborn. He was coming home for Christmas. I was planning on coming home from Christmas because he lived in California and I lived in Florida. We all moved away a long time ago. He wasn't coming home all the time. He was kind of incognito. He was living a different life. He was a truck driver and he got involved with speed, methamphetamine speed, really bad for many years. So, it was, Christmas time, and it's December 24th. So he's supposed to come home. I go to the airport, going to meet him at the airport to pick him up. So I'm at the airport and I'm driving around and I see all the people are coming out of the airport. I can't find my brother. I'm looking for him, back and forth around. Finally, I said, screw it, I go inside. I go inside, I get on, have somebody page, where's Mark Redeman? I get to the darn phone, blah, blah, blah. He never comes there. And I'm going, what the heck? So then I have to go investigate it. I have to go to the counter to see if he was actually on the manifest. And I had to call his girlfriend, and his girlfriend said, yeah, I took him to the airport. He got on that plane. I know he got on that plane. And then the air people said, yeah, he got on, he got off. And so I walked around the airport for an hour. I called home. And finally I go home. And everybody's wondering, where's Mark? I have to tell them this long, drawn-out story. And we're all, it's Christmas Eve. No, Christmas goes by. Or maybe it was Thanksgiving. Anyway, it goes by, and like a day later, Mark calls me and says, hey, can you come over and give me a ride? And I said, give you a ride? He says, I'm over in so-and-so Portland. I said, what are you doing? He goes, well, I was walking through the airport and I met some old friend, and he just took off and got stolen on that meth for 2 or 3 days. He was lost. He missed Christmas. I was mad. I was laughing at him. I said, what a story, Mark. How do you possibly miss Christmas and go party, So, that was Mark's life. And there were some, that was funny as hell. I tell you, I was coming over here. Okay. If I tell another story, will I get fired?
Hey, hand it over. Come here, I want to talk to you.
Well, we got the full blow on that one, didn't we? I'm not going to make a long comment. You all knew who Mark was. He was my best brother, my best friend, and I love him so dearly. And anything that I did for him wasn't something he wouldn't have done for me if the tables should have been turned. I know that. So, all I have to say is Mark Redeman had the biggest heart in the world. He was kind of injured, but it was a big heart. He gave to everybody. He was non-selfish. He just there was no cell phone.
Hold the mic up to your mouth, Holly.
All right, I'm not talking.
There you go.
Hello.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mark Redeman was probably the dearest person in my life. And it's a hard thing to go through, but I would do it again if I had to. Because he left behind a wonderful daughter, most definitely a wonderful niece. And I can't say much. I'd like to bring Holly up here though. Come on. This is two of my four daughters.
Microphone, Holly.
Sorry, this is two of my four daughters. One's over there. This is Holly.
Hello, Holly.
I brought everything back, that's true, but I couldn't have done it without her. She jumped right in, said, I'll fly to you wherever you're at, and you pick me up and we'll bring Mark home. So we managed to do that on a right rear tire that was totally screwed, bald from the can't guess what, okay? How about the 12 laps around Kentucky Bowling Green on the racetrack? And he did a pretty good job to it. We had to replace the right rear bearing when we got up to Wisconsin, which he got sick, and then things just, you know. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to just talk about his life. And he was a wonderful guy. And if it had not been for my daughter showing up and meeting me, I don't know if I could have made that trip back by myself. I left and I was there for 3 nights at the motel. They only stay another night. And it was about 7 o'clock at night, and I said, there's no way that we're gonna. Anyways, I'm getting kind of messed up here. He was just a wonderful person. That's all I can say about him. And he'll be missed dearly.
Thank you, Holly. I really appreciate it. Gave my voice a break. All right. Hey, I love you. Anyway, thank you. All right. I just want to finish. I won't tell any more stories, but okay. The last story. This is his last seconds and minutes in this world. Mark's laying on the floor. He's had a heart attack. All right? You know why you hear stories? Mark is above. You know, he's watching what happens. And me, I am dedicating this to him. Just before he left, I asked him, do you believe in God? We're just very quick. We talked a lot of stuff, but I didn't get into a lot of religion. And he just said, yes, I do. That's all I wanted to hear from him. So I felt good knowing that he believed in God. Didn't matter if he went to church all the time. Didn't matter if he didn't read the Bible. It was what he believed in. So I can picture it now, what was going on. He saw his lifeless body, and he knew he was dying, but God, Jesus, came and stood in front of him. And I know my brother, Jesus, he was looking at him, and he knew what was happening, but he wasn't sure. And Jesus said, Mark, I have a deal for you. And Mark, he said, I want to hear that deal. Because, you know, Mark always listened. I'll tell you one thing, He listened to a lot of science channels. He listened all the time to motorcycle and car shows over the last 8 years. He was so knowledgeable. Every time I talked to him, he would tell me stories about the gold rush story, the show. He'd watch it from the beginning. It was all in the technical stuff. So when God says, I have a deal for you, Mark says, what? He goes, I can offer you, Mark, eternity in a new world. All right? And my brother said, eternity? That sounds like a long time. Because he was like that. So, real quick, God said to him, I'm going to tell you how big eternity is real quick. Just, eternity is just your life. Maybe if you live to be 100 years old. I'm going to compare that real quick. That is an atom. And just so you know, an atom is only 1/1,000,000th the size of your hair. That's your 100 years living. And so you can comprehend how small an atom is. And then he said, infinity. That's the universe and the galaxy times 100 trillion. All right, so Mark, yeah. Now listen, Holly, I'm telling you what that took place. What is, I'm trying to tell a story. Yes, you can. Folks, just so you know, there's plenty of time all afternoon for people to take time and reflect. Anyway, as Mark left this world and he was going to heaven, he looked back and he looked back at his mother. He was on that journey in that escalator skyway called the Tunnel of Love. He was on his way to a new heaven and home. He looked back at you, Mom, says, I'm okay. Mom, I see Dad. I see Denny. Denny died 45 years ago in a tragic accident. They want me to come. And you know, there's Steve, my cousin, and Stan the man. They're all flagging me to come. So I say goodbye, Mom. And then he looked at Suzette, wherever she went to, and said to Suzette, do not worry, don't stress. Think of me when you're under a lot of stress, and the answer will come. Just don't worry about it, it will happen. And in a quantum second, a flash took, and it was gone. And there was his lifeless body. Now, I'm so happy. When I leave this world, I'm going to get the same opportunity to go before God and ask for forgiveness, and I'll be with everybody else, all the friends I've lost. Anyway, you will too, all I get that chance. So in closing, I want to say, Mark, you were the best brother. I had such good times with you, Mark, over the years. We had so many different adventures. We lived together at party houses. We worked together. We had some of the same girlfriends together. You know, we had a lot going on in our lives. You lived a great life. All I can say is I dedicate this song by Vince Gill, Go Rest High on That Mountain, and I'll see you in the future. I love you.
I just wanted to say that I met Mark in about 2014, and he was excited to go on the caravan for his first time, and it was the last minute. I met Dante at the last minute of the caravan, and they became close friends the last 5 years, enough that they went on this trip together. And Dante, I think you can relate to that much, and maybe talk about that wonderful trip, both of them, that people would enjoy to hear about the good times that he had on that trip, and we'll miss him very much. Thank you.
I am Susie, Suzette, as my dad would always call me. My dad was so amazing. He didn't have to be my dad, and he was. He chose to be my dad. And for that, I'm really so grateful. He was definitely like no other. He nurtured me, taught me, held me, yelled at me. And at times, but most of all, he loved me unconditionally. My dad had never any conditions on anything. Sorry.
You're doing great, Mom.
I wish I could be this great storyteller that my dad was. I'm sorry. I need those genes. I know, right? He's like, stop crying, stop. So this is the story. My mom and dad met when I was like a month old. He married my mom when I was about 5 months old. He wasn't my dad, but he chose to be my dad. And he was the most loving, caring, open, booked dad you could ever have. There was nothing ever hidden from me. Nothing. I'm losing track. We have so many like amazing stories. Especially the most I remember is when we lived in the Lovejoy house, and when we would cruise in the Corvettes that Mama Marilyn introduced him to. And we had so much fun. The biggest thing that I remember the most is when I was about 9 years old and he decided to become a long haul truck driver. And at that point, my dad was my hero, and he always has been. But I was absolutely crushed. I cried myself to sleep so many nights. I couldn't believe he was like leaving me for a long term. But I knew that that was something that he really wanted to do. And so every summer after that, he made a point that I would fly out to him or meet up with him wherever he was and spend the whole summer with him, riding long haul, truck driving, being a little girl, and just having the time of our lives. He would always make a point to stop at least once in the summer to do something so fun with me. Like, he took me to Disney World, Six Flags so many times, so many zoos. He would talk about, and because he was so, his memory was amazing, and he would think of everything, and he would tell me about the landscape. He knew everything. He was like the smartest man I ever come across. We just had the best time. We play on the CB radio, which of course is where Freeway came from, and my CB nickname was Little Britches. And I heard a lot of like fun, colorful things on there. I mean, but like my dad though, he was just not a closed book. Everything was open, everything was out in the open. I mean, I remember as a little girl, Mama, we went to Rooster Rock. I mean, nothing was closed. Nothing. My dad was the most open, never hid anything from me. I knew everything, and I think that's who I am today. And that's why my dad is my hero. I love him more than anything in this world, and I wish I could tell him that one more time. But we had amazing times, and I will never forget them. And I'll always be Daddy's little girl. Like he always called me, have you seen my baby? Where's my baby? So I'll just say like one more thing. Dear God, I gratefully thank you for giving my dad. You must really love me because you gave me your best you had. Watch over him and bless him and keep him in your care. And may he feel my love from my prayer. I love you, Dad.
Hello. My name is Tom Clevenger. I've been friends with Lynn, Mark, and Dennis since grade school in Eastmoreland. Yes, I was on that journey in that parking lot all those years ago, going up and down. I'll just make this point, though. I was not driving, so I mean, you really can't get a better result if I'd been on the wheel. But what Lynn failed to mention that night was that we ended up with no brains at all, just saying, well, let's head down to Haight-Ashbury. And at about 8 o'clock at night, after cruising Broadway, we jumped in Mark's 1969 Chevelle SS 396 Super Sport, white, black racing stripes, red interior, 4-speed Hurst on the floor, 396, and we headed to San Francisco. And we ended up in Haight-Ashbury, because this is 1969. This is when it was all bubbling over down there. And here we were just trying to see what the world was offering, and we went down there, and we forgot to kind of do a check before you head out on a trip like that, and how much money do we have together, So we got there, and we didn't have a lot of money together. We'd stop at these Plaid Pantry restaurants, and we'd get the little cereal boxes that were plastic inside, the wax paper inside, and we get some milk, and we get a cereal box and some plastic spoons, and we'd sit in the car and we'd eat. And that was breakfast, typically lunch also. But anyway, we got to San Francisco that night, and I remember that we didn't have room for a hotel, so we just slept in the car. 4 guys in the car, I could never do that today, but I mean, then it seemed like it was okay, it was pretty cool. So we checked out all of San Francisco and even went down the coast further, but we finally ran out of money. And we kind of looked around the car saying how we're going to get back home. It's either like we're going to get jobs or we're going to have to get some help here. So we looked around the car and said, well, whose parents might send us a little bit of money to help us out? I looked around at Lynn and Mark, and they kind of didn't think their parents were going to rescue us. So Steve Wasson he kind of said the same thing. So I drew the short straw and called my folks and said, if you ever want to see us again, you got to send us $200. So anyway, they sent us $200. I paid them back later, but we finally got back to Portland. So anyway, I just want to share one more story. And I lived with Lynn and Mark at the King Street house from the move-in date, and it was a huge house. I forget, 6 bedrooms, 7 bedrooms. It was previously owned by the Oregon Supreme Court Justice, if you will. So it was a very famous residence as well. And we moved in, 5 of us, Dan Isaacson, Stan, Mark, Lynn, and myself. I think every bedroom had a fireplace in it. It was an amazing place. So. And being in our mid-20s and out and about like we were in those days, we chose to have a housewarming party, And so we made up these little cards, and we took them around to all the pubs we went to in town, all the dance spots we went to in town, and said, party on this date, at this time, at this place. And we just kind of dropped them around. Yeah, I know that was a mistake, wasn't it? And we had a $2 charge for guys and a $1 charge for girls. We had the Portland Zoo playing in the basement, okay? We'd rented all these game machines, foosball tables and things like that, and put them up on the 3rd floor, I think? 3rd floor, yeah. All the way up, yeah. And we opened up the party, I think, at 8 o'clock. We had 10 kegs of beer. We'd bought 10 cases of champagne. We bought these reflection pools that would put water up in the air and put psychedelic lights out on the walls and stuff like that. It was quite the deal. And so I was collecting the money at the front door, If your guy $2, your girl $1, And I was putting it in my pockets. I mean, I had money coming out of my pockets, and occasionally I'd take a break, get somebody else to do it. I run up the money up to my bedroom and I'd stuff it in my sock drawer. I just had more it was filled with dollar bills by the end of the night. And anyway, I'm standing out there on the. No, we all went toward the restoration of the house, but anyway. About 10 o'clock, so we've been open about 2 hours, 8 to 10, up rolls the Hell's Angels, and they all park 30 motorcycles down the sidewalk in Southwest Portland, so you can imagine the attention that got and then the cops came and pulled me off the front porch and put me in the back of the car and said, he said, "What the hell are you guys doing?" And I said, "We're having a party." He said, "Do you realize your next door neighbor is the president of Broadway Cab Company?" And I said, I really didn't know. And he couldn't get a parking spot within about 30 blocks from there at the time. So they shut it down. We shut the music down. And by the end of the night, we're all sitting there on the floor at about 10:30 or 10:45. Everybody's gone. The place is a disaster, and we had a pot full of money to fix it up, but that was a short-lived party. It was a great memory. And actually, it was the first place I met my wife. She came to that party, and I took $1 from her as she walked in the door, and she talks about it still to this day. So, anyway, someone else, please.
I want to thank everyone for coming. And I'd like to bring the mic to you guys if you would like to speak or have a few words, if you guys don't want to get up here, and to keep this going. I know a lot of you have some great stories, and he was a great man. And I appreciate the Corvette Strong.
I'm Hannah Earhart, Hannah Earhart Sutton. Hi, Mrs. Redeman. And it will always be Mrs. Redeman to me, not Betty. Used to see her Cranfords all the time. Anyway, I just thought I'd share my memories of Mark. So I think I developed a crush on Mark in 3rd grade. That was when I came to Dunaway. And I think Mark might have been in my class, I'm not sure. But anyway, Jean Louise Hickey and I would go to Lynn and Mark's house, and we'd have dirt clod fights with these boys when we were little. And Mrs. Redeman was always so nice. Why these 2 little girls were over at the house, must have both had crushes on these boys. But anyway, so saw him at school all the time. And in 6th grade, everybody, all of us who are older, you know where you were when President Kennedy died, right? Okay, so when President Kennedy died, I was sitting in the 6th grade classroom, and Mark was sitting right across from me, and Mrs. Perrin came in and told us that President Kennedy had been assassinated. And Mark reaches out and grabs my hand and tells me that it's going to be all right. And I still remember that story, so anytime we're ever talking about memories, it's that story of Mark just reaching out and grabbing my hand and saying, it's going to be okay, because that was a traumatic day for all of us who were around at that time. Anyway, he's always had a special place in my heart. Never dated him, always had a crush on him. Saw him at a couple of reunions. Anyway, rest in peace, dear sweet one. And Lynn and Mrs. Redeman, my sincere condolences. You guys are going through this again. Anyway, take care. Love you.
My name is Linda. I was a member of the Rose City Corvette Club. That's how I met Mark. The first meeting I attended, he was over there shaking my hand, introducing himself, and basically saying everything will be all right, because there were like 60 people in this room that I knew nobody. And he could make you LOL. A lot of people couldn't, but he could. And we both had a little bit older Corvettes, so we used to sit at tables a lot during meetings and at shows and stuff and figure out how to make our cars just as special as the newer ones, adding this or putting this on it, and that was fun. And I only knew him for a short time. I wish I'd known him longer, because I actually grew up right down and went to the schools there, but I was over on Woodstock. And I'd like to read a poem, if I could. And it's named How You Spend Your Dash. And here goes. Someone once said, today is a gift, and that's why we call it a present. This is so true. Consider the following poem written by an unknown author. I read of a man who stood to speak at a funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on his tombstone as the beginning and the end. He noticed that first came his date of birth and spoke of the following date with tears. But he said what matters most of all was the dash between those years. For the dash represented all the time that he spent alive on earth. And now only those who loved him know what little time that line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, houses and cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that still can be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that little special dash might only last a little while. And he's going to be missed a lot. Now I have nobody to sit and figure out what we're going to do with our cars next.
Would anyone else like to speak? Okay.
Hi, my name is Marilyn Davis, but it was Marilyn Redeman Davis for a long time. I met Mark on March 10th, 1976. We got married that year on New Year's Eve in the Lovejoy house, which is a house that Lynn and Mark had leased, big, beautiful mansion. And I had been living in the West Hills in this little tiny house. It was $225 a month, and it was getting to be much for me. Can you imagine? And so I always wanted to live in one of those old mansions, so I looked in the ad, and the paper was an ad for a roommate. So I moved in for $150 a month, and then I met everyone who lived there, like 5 people. Mark was the 5th and last one that I met, and a psychic just told me that I would meet someone had to do with the number 5, and it was him. We were together that first night, and I pulled up, and I had met Lynn in his silk shirts and his jewelry and his flashing ways, and his Cadillac and all of that stuff. But I had not met Mark, so I pull up in my Corvette. I introduced him to those. I had my 72 burnt orange Corvette. And I pull up to the Lovejoy house. I have a fox fur coat on, Givenchy slacks, and I walk in, and here's this guy, Mark, standing there. Yeah, and Mark is standing in these very old, what do you call them? I know my voice is terrible. Anyway, so a very old leather coat, and his hair was stringy and over his ear like this, and he was smoking a cigarette and had these really old shoes on. I thought, what the hell, but I wanted to meet him anyway, no big deal. So he took me down to the ringside, and we had onion rings and margaritas, and we were there to that night on. We had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful life together. However, when he had that truck, that damn truck, we cussed about that damn thing. It was on the cover of Mayflower magazine. But their calendars, it's so beautiful. But once he got in that truck, he never got out. So we found out long distance did not make the heart grow fonder, unfortunately. And I could yell and scream at him, but I never could. I would see him and I was back there every time. He'd turn and look at me and I was back. I loved him my whole life. He was my soulmate. I plan to see him again someday, so thank you.
So I remember I forgot in my little speech one little story to tell when my dad was a long haul truck driver. You know, I would go every summer, starting about 9 years old, and I forgot to tell this. And they gave the mic to me, so that's what happens. When I was younger, he would teach me. He would have me sit on his lap and teach me how to shift that semi-truck so I could learn how to drive it, which I thought I was like the coolest little girl ever. And then when I was about 12 years old, I was with him in the summertime, and we were on a really long across, I don't know, Iowa or something, where it's flat land and a bunch of cornfields, and he's like, I'm really tired. And this was nighttime, because you know my dad likes to drive at night. So this is nighttime. And he's like, I'm really tired, but we can't stop. So I need you to switch seats with me. So we switched seats, and I drove that truck for probably at least 2 hours while he hopped in the back and took a nap. And that's something that will stay with me forever. It's one of my biggest stories, and I'm not a good storyteller like my dad was. I don't have those genes. But he obviously had no fear with so many things. But I want to thank everybody so much for coming and celebrating my dad. He was a most amazing, loving man and my hero. And I thank you all for coming.
I'd like to open it up for refreshments. There's food in the back. There's a book. There's more than one book. There's 2 books. Holly would really like everybody to sign both books. One is a Corvette book that he got. So don't forget to stop by there. Look at the pictures. You know, the family sitting up here. Don't forget to come by and say hi. Really appreciate the love and support, and thank you guys for coming to honor Mark. And thank you for being Corvette Strong.
Yes.